The Orange Bowl, the Georgia Bulldogs taking on the Florida State Seminoles, December the 30th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff on ESPN. Guys, this game being played at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida. The spread on this one, the Dogs are a 14-point favorite. The over-under set at 44.5. And guys, my top storyline in this one, this is the we got left out of the college football playoff bowl. You know, what's kind of unfortunate about this game, guys, you put this game about 2 months ago, right, when Jordan Travis was still healthy and, you know, we're in the midst of the season. Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey were healthy. You put this game about a month or two ago. This is a primetime premier type of matchup. Now, guys, I'll even say this. You put this game this time next year when we've got a 12-team college football playoff, this game is still set to be one for the ages. But because of some other factors, the injury to Jordan Travis, Florida State's interest level or that lack thereof in the game, which we'll get into in a second, this game all of a sudden loses some of that luster that it once had. Again, that is evidenced by Georgia being a 2-touchdown favorite in this football game. Guys, in case you missed the big news, Carson Beck, QB1 for Georgia, he is playing in the bowl game, and he is officially back for the 2024 season, which obviously, guys, is massive news for Georgia. Georgia is going to be a team that is looking to make a run yet again to the national championship. I think they're going to be a shoo-in for the 12-team playoff, obviously. And certainly, Georgia is a team with Carson Beck under center. When you look at their schedule, you look at the challenges it presents, having to try to navigate that with a brand new quarterback would have been a real struggle. The news that Georgia got that Carson Beck, and guys, Carson Beck was one of the most, I think, underappreciated players in college football this season. And I love him for next year to be a dark horse to win the Heisman Trophy because all this dude did was put up numbers. I'm not saying, obviously, that he should have won it this year or that he should have even got invited to New York. But when you look at what Carson Beck did, he simply did not get talked about enough because I think everything he did, much like everything Georgia did, was so ho-hum because the expectations were so insanely high. I challenge you to go look at the numbers for Beck. I challenge you to go look at the numbers for the Georgia passing offense, what Carson Beck and Mike Bobo did. It was wildly, wildly impressive. And so for them to get him back, to get QB1 returning in 2024 certainly sparks or should lead to another college football playoff appearance for the Dogs. And certainly they will be one of the favorites, as they should be, to win it all next year. But of course, you've got Carson Beck playing in this game. The question for Georgia, will Brock Bowers play in this game, right? Has not made it clear on his future. The NFL draft, most folks obviously expect he will go into the NFL draft. I'm sure there's things happening behind the scenes with NIL. Again, will Brock Bowers play in the game? He has not made it clear, guys. He's a guy that dealt with injuries all season long, was banged up. I don't think anybody would blame him. I don't think anybody would blame him in regards to if he played or did not, or, if he sat this one out because he's dealt with so much. And I think Brock Bowers, you saw him really push his body to the limits all throughout the season, playing banged up, playing hurt, came back from injury super quickly, right? Healed up as quickly as he could. So does Brock Bowers play in this one? We'll see. Georgia did play a couple of games without him this year. They did not miss a beat. Ladd McConkey, guys, another big name for this Georgia football team, and he should be healthy. He should be good to go if Brock Bowers is not on the field. And we did not see the Brock Bowers that we expected to, the Ladd McConkey we expected to, because, again, Ladd was hurt most of the season. He is a big-time weapon and an X factor on the outside for Carson Beck. So you just wonder, again, McConkey was a guy who was banged up in that SEC title game. Is he going to be back to full strength? What is the status of him? And if Brock Bowers does not go, how much pressure is there on Ladd McConkey to step up and be that guy? Certainly supporting cast pieces around him, but he will be the feature guy on the outside, the go-to target, if you will. Now, guys, on the other side of things, for Florida State, you have to wonder where they are mentally, right? Because we talk about teams not being amped for bowl games or not being excited. If there's one team that you can really justify them being down in the dumps and not looking forward to playing their bowl game, If there's one team you can justify for that, it's the Florida State Seminoles. After the way they were left out of the college football playoff. Listen, I'm someone, guys, I understood why they got left out. They wouldn't have been in my Final Four either. But still, from a team standpoint, from a psyche standpoint, to go undefeated and to not get an opportunity to play for it all. And you're not Liberty. You're not Tulane. You're not some FCS school. This is Florida State. And you don't get an opportunity to play for it all after going 13-0. You just have to wonder where FSU is mentally. And I will say this, and others have made this point, but I want to echo it. Here's what I think the wrong approach in this game is. Because so many people, they're going to look at this Orange Bowl. Georgia's probably going to win this game, right? They were 2-touchdown favorite. If Georgia blows out Florida State, so many people are going to look at this game and say, oh, see? That tells you right there, FSU didn't belong. Now, again, I'm someone that I wouldn't have put in my Final Four either because I don't think Florida State was the same team without Jordan Travis. Florida State at their best was one of the 4 best teams in college football. But they're not at their best. They're not even remotely at their best without their starting quarterback. With that being said, though, so many people are going to point to this Orange Bowl if Georgia blows out Florida State and say, see, that's proof right there. FSU didn't belong. I think this is completely separate, guys, because this isn't going to be the best version of that Florida State team we watched all season taking the field, right? Opt-outs have hit FSU. Some of their top guys are out in this game. Former Gamecock Jaheim Bell has went ahead and declared for the NFL draft. It's just guy after guy after guy because FSU had a goal of playing for the ultimate prize. They got a lot of guys in the portal, and them guys said, you know what? We ain't going there, so I'm out, deuces. And it is what it is. That's the new age of college football. I just don't think, though, you can look at this game and say, well, this game will be proof. This game will be validation one way or the other. Now, if you're FSU, you're playing with house money, right? You are. You're playing with house money because if you go out there and beat Georgia, if Florida State, for whatever reason, goes out there and takes down Georgia, well, all of a sudden, they've got a real argument of, hey, we should have been in. We should have been in the college football playoff. That was a mistake. And you're probably going to have another team in the state of Florida proclaiming themselves as national champions, even though they did not win at all. So, a lot is at stake here. But where is Florida State mentally? That's my question. Where are they mentally? Because nobody would blame them if they were down and out. But what an opportunity it presents for the Seminoles in this one. Guys, it's the Noles defense that has really risen to the occasion. They're going to have to do so one more time. I cannot wait to watch that FSU front seven against that Georgia offensive line that has done such a good job at protecting Carson Beck, opening holes for the running game. They got the big uglies up front. Again, FSU guys in the ACC championship, I believe it was 7 sacks they generated against Louisville. They're going to go after the quarterback early and often. How does Georgia withstand that? How do they combat that? Finally, guys, Georgia is looking to do something they have not done in quite a long time. That is bounce back from a loss, right? Georgia losing to Alabama. First loss in 30 games for the Dogs. Had a 29-game winning streak and finally lost. So, how does Kirby rally the troops? How does Kirby get Georgia off the mat and ready to play and inspired and excited? Because what's interesting, it's like, who wants it more of two teams that barely won it at all, right? FSU feels like they got jobbed. Georgia had their sights set on 3 straight national titles, and they fell short of that goal. So it's like, of these two teams that would probably rather be anywhere else, who can be inspired, who can be fired up, who can get motivated to play in this football game? Which brings me into my prediction, guys. You know, I cannot wait for the 12-team playoff, guys. I'm a 12-team playoff guy. I like the idea of more teams having an opportunity. And I think most are now seeing, you know what, even if you don't like an expanded playoff, it's the lesser of the two evils in this scenario, right? Because the fact Florida State doesn't get to prove it on the field is a shame. It is. The fact they don't get to prove it on the field is a shame, right? And people talked about, well, the regular season's its own playoff. Well, not everybody's regular season schedule is equal. That's the problem with your argument. And then the people say that the games won't matter argument. To who? I call baloney on that. I call BS. I couldn't disagree more. That being said, it's a shame Florida State doesn't get an opportunity to play with their best 22 and find out what they could do with what they have, right? I'm just going to say that. Back to what I said, though, you got to think about where Florida State is mentally, man. You just have to question it. You have to question the motivation. You have to question the excitement to play in this game. And while I think Georgia, do I think they're thrilled? Not necessarily. And I think Mike Norvell's a really, really good coach. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a great coach. I think he's doing great things at Florida State. But if I got to pick one of these two coaches to motivate their football team, fire up their football team, get their football team ready to go in a game like this, I'm riding with Kirby Smart every single time because there's nobody better in college football at doing that and getting his team ready to go, having his team take it personally, right, than a Kirby Smart. And so I think he'll have the dogs ready to go, guys. I do think that Georgia's defense will be suffocating. I think they'll key on the run. I think they'll dare Florida State to beat them through the air. And I just don't trust that Tate Rodemaker will be able to do that. I think Carson Beck, the return news was massive for Georgia. I think he'll play well in this football game. I do think the dogs will roll, guys. I just think Florida State, again, you have to really question where they're at mentally. I don't think it's in a great place. And so, again, for that reason, I am taking the Georgia Bulldogs to get a big win over Florida State, guys. Lock me in. Give me UGA 34, FSU 13. Again, I don't trust where Florida State is mentally. I don't think they're fired up for this game. I don't think they're excited. And I think Georgia is just a better football team, top to bottom. Even if FSU was full strength, I'd probably be picking Georgia in this game. I think Georgia's going to punch Florida State in the mouth. And they're going to punch them again, and they're going to punch them again, and they're going to punch them again. And I don't doubt that FSU defensively or what have you, they'll probably have some jabs of their own, but they're not going to have enough to withstand what Georgia is. And, just because the Dogs lost to Bama, they're still one of the best teams in college football. Make no mistake about it. I think they will show that. I think they will flex their muscles. I think Kirby Smart will have the Dogs ready to go as they get a big win in the Orange Bowl.